I thought I would do a little video on taking care of a laptop, specifically revolving around cooling, but a little bit of notes on certain other things. For example, if you have a laptop, now I'm going to be using my Toshiba Satellite C55-B5362, and that's this right here. And I've already prepped this by removing the screws from the bottom. I've set those screws aside in approximately the same location that they were in the bottom of this. I took out all of the screws from the bottom. Now, one thing that I want you to know is if you ever have to replace your keyboard, and I've got one key that I took out to clean and I've never been able to figure out how to get it back in there. It's uncooperative. It's got these nice little pins that fit into holes, and you're supposed to be able to push it down a certain way, and I've just never been able to do that. But if you ever actually were in need of replacing your keyboard, every laptop is a little bit different. Some laptops you would remove screws from the bottom, and that would allow you to pry out the keyboard. Others, there's a bevel that goes around the keyboard, and you have to carefully pry out that bevel. Be careful, again, because use something like this to pry underneath it and remove it, and underneath that you'll have access to the screws, and there will also be a zero force cable or two that are connecting the keyboard to the main unit, and you'll have to lift up the little, usually it's like a white or off-white thing that you flip up, and that allows the cable to be removed. Now when I say cable, it looks like a flat white cable, and it's got very, very small wires in it, and there's just this little gate that you lift up with you can use your thumbnail or fingernail. You can use this. You can use something that you can carefully get under there, but usually your fingernail should be enough unless you're chewing your fingernails off all the time. And once you do that, it'll just come loose automatically, because that gate is what's holding it in place. And you'll see one of those when I flip this over and open up the bottom. So that's just a little tip on keyboards, and you should look online to find out whether you have to access the top or the bottom in order to replace your keyboard. I would suggest, if you can, to get some kind of a protector that you can place over the keyboard to prevent, if you have an accident with liquids or solids and it gets in there, it can be a real pain in the butt, because then you have to immediately turn off the computer, then you have to pull off all everything from the keyboard after removing the keyboard from the laptop, and you have to clean out all the gunk, and then you can't use your computer for a few days as you let the keyboard dry out, and then you have to put it all back together again. So better just to put some kind of a silicone protector that you can buy online or at like Micro Center or something like that over your keys to keep them safe from you and your eating habits. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove all the screws from the bottom, unless it indicates which screws are specifically for the keyboard. You don't have to remove those, okay? Now, if you have seals, these seals are in place to, and I've got actually 3 on mine, to let the company that you got this from, either the manufacturer or the store, know that it hasn't been tampered with. So if it hasn't been tampered with, first thing you should do is you should check and see if this is still under warranty. If it's still under warranty, do not try to open it, because by damaging these stickers, you void your warranty, and then they're not going to help you unless there's some kind of a recall that doesn't matter whether you opened it or not. It's a part that's dangerously defective or something like that. So take out all your screws, set them aside. Some laptops, all the screws will be the same length, others it will not. So try to lay out on a safe space where they're not going to get knocked about, especially like a magnetic sheet like this. You can put them all on there, and then you don't have to worry about them falling off. And that is a great solution to make sure that you neither lose screws, which is frustrating, and that you keep them in the proper place so that you don't put a long one in a short hole and then end up damaging the motherboard, for example. Once you've got all those taken out and laid out according to where they are here, you can go ahead and open up the bottom. Now, depending on the design of your laptop, your battery may be held in place with screws like mine is. I've got one screw here and one screw here. I can just pull it out like that. Others have releases that you will find that you can move here. Let me see if I can show you one. Well, I don't have an example laying around right now that I can show you, but if you happen to have a computer or a laptop specifically that doesn't have screws, there are probably going to be release latches that you can move in one direction or in the other direction. That'll be right next to the battery compartment, and then you can lift it out or pull it out depending on the design that the manufacturer used. But if you've got something like this done where you've removed the battery, you may be able to just take your fingernails, dig underneath, and pull off very carefully the plastic base or the metal base, depending on which kind of laptop you've got. But you may have to use something like this, or a spatula like this, or there are other kinds of spatulas like this, and it just, you know, there are lots of different options out there. I would definitely recommend that you get yourself a nice kit if you're going to be working in your computer. I got this one. I think they're currently, it's a Strabito, and it's got lots of duplicate bits, so if you damage a bit, you still got a backup. And it has both the large driver and the small driver, both of which you can extend the length to help you out. And it's got other tools as well. It's got an anti-shock strap and everything. I have not had any problems with this other than one or two pieces that like to pop out of their retainer slot within the case. But yeah, overall I'm really happy with it. So just take whatever it is you're going to use to pry. I'm going to just use this, and you just get underneath a corner if you can. It's not always going to be easy, and you may find that the plastic one doesn't work. I'm going to try the other side. Ah, that was much easier. See, I can get under this one better. So now I can just carefully remove this, and there we go. And you can see this is just designed to match the insides. So we have the optical drive here, and here we have the hard drive. I did try putting a solid state drive in this at one point, and it died. Apparently, and within a few months it died, and I think it may have had to do with the fact that this is a different version of SATA than the SATA that the hard drive was using. And this is a card reader here. We've got our two RAM sticks here, memory, and a few other things. So this is the cooler for the CPU. So this copper tube is running across the heat plate here, which collects the heat from the CPU, and that hot copper tube goes over here, and then the fan blows cool air across it because it sucks in air through the vent there, and that air then is pushed out through here. Now, if you're noticing that your laptop is running slower and it may not be running coolly, you may put your hand on top of the laptop and you notice it's really hot. This could be an indication that you've got a lot of dust in this area here. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to just try to clean out this thing here and this vent here, because this is where the hot air blows out. It's not the most efficient system, but it works. Now, if you want to just do a simple trick, you could get a condensed air, a can of condensed air, and just blow it down into here. It's going to spin this fan, and it'll push dust out. Two things. You're better off buying a tool that does the same function but doesn't have too high of pressure. because it's going to be a lot cheaper than buying can after can of condensed air. So I recommend that. But also I recommend actually removing this, because if the dust has clumped up, some of it's going to come spitting out here, but some of it's going to get trapped on this side of the vent and not come out. Now, I've already cleaned this, so you're not actually going to see it, but you can see that there is one of those ribbon cables I was talking about in a ZIF port, or a zero insertion force port. So what you do is you get your fingernail under there, or I'll use this so you can see what I'm doing here. You just get that under there, and it lifts up, and voila, no problem. Very, very simple. So now what I want to do is, I've only got 2 screws, but this one was a screw that was coming through the bottom of the case, so I don't need to worry about that. I've just got this one screw here to remove. I'm just going to set this aside in a conspicuous place so I don't lose it. Now you see that there's this power cable right here. You don't need to remove that because we're not replacing the fan or anything like that, but you're going to want to pull it out. Now notice you have to move the ribbon cable out of the way carefully. You don't want to damage it. And then you see how it's kind of stuck. That's because there's a corner hiding underneath that heat pipe. And you're going to want to just move this out of the way. You may look here and you may see a buildup of dust here. I've already cleaned this so you're not seeing it right now, but there will be some dust probably stuck in here. And you can take a little brush and you can get inside there just to make sure, and I am getting some. And then over here you will definitely see clumps of dust in this area right here. Okay, so you're going to want to carefully brush that out. Don't use a lot of force, you don't need to, and you don't want to bend the little vein, the little fins that are in there. You want to just gently do that to get all that dust out, and then just put it up to the light and look through the holes and make sure that all the holes are empty, and you can blow through them or use your condensed air tool to blow through them, and that'll make sure that all the dust is out of there. Once you've done that, it's just a simple matter of putting this fan back. Since this, on my unit anyways, the fan has this piece underneath the heat tube, you have to do the fan, well, you don't have to do the fan first, but you can do them both at the same time, but I like to do one at a time just to make sure I don't lose anything. So I'm going to just tighten that back up. There we go. Long screw. And then I'm going to put this back in place. Make sure you get it in there good and fully, and then you just push that gate down again and cover that up again, and that's as good as you can do with that. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to sorry, it's got a really, one of the other things I like about this particular brand is it has it's not just that, but it has a great magnet in here. The magnet is really, really good. I would say it's almost as good as LTT's screwdriver magnet. It's really very strong. I mean, it takes a lot of force for me to get this to pop out. The larger one, however, isn't as good of a magnet, but this one's great. So I never worry about my bits getting falling out or anything. So this one's got 3 screws. I'm going to set those aside again. Alright, now we just simply, and remember, you want to make sure that you are grounded because you don't want to shock your system. Some parts of the computer are not very sensitive and others are. This is not a sensitive component. So you can see here, this was actually attached. So another way you can deal with this part if it's clogged up is to remove this whole assembly, and then you can clean it. Not all are like this. Every computer is a little bit different. So you'll see that there is thermal paste or thermal compound over here. I already removed it from this side. I took my plastics thing here and I scraped it all off. that actually is, it looks really pretty good. However, you want to get it as clean as you possibly can so that when you apply more paste to it, it's going to stick properly. So you're going to want to use some isopropyl alcohol and a clean cloth that doesn't have fiber that's going to get stuck on it, and clean that off. And then you're going to carefully scrape off as much of the paste as you can from these chips here, or, well, I'm not sure if they're the IHS or the chips. I think they're the IHS actually, which transfers the heat from the chips so it can be removed more easily by the cooler. You're just going to get in there, and you don't really need to worry too much about the stuff that's on the green PCB. It doesn't hurt to get rid of it, but if you can't get it all off, that's okay. The important thing is again, you want to get it off of here. Now, again, you're going to want to use isopropyl alcohol, and once you get all that cleaned up, after you're done cleaning it up, please do not touch it again like I'm doing with my fingers right now, because that's okay, because I'm just cleaning it. You don't want to have the oil from your fingers being stuck to this and stuck to this. So once you've cleaned it, be very careful not to touch this area, especially on both of these parts. And then you're going to replace it. I'm going to grab my alcohol and we'll do that together. All right. Now, you don't need it to be soaking wet, you just need a little bit on the cloth. I'm just gonna, there, see, I got some off, even though it looked like it was clean, it was not. I'm gonna dry it, and do the same with this. See all that gunk I got off of there? It should dry pretty quickly. You can blow on it to help speed that up a bit. Now, once you've got the surface cleaned with the alcohol, you're going to want to make sure that it's actually clean. So get it so that light is shining on it from an angle, and move it and so you can look at it and make sure there's no blemishes on there. If there are blemishes on there, take a clean cloth, dry cloth on, and just rub it on there to make sure that it doesn't have anything left. And the same with this. I'm going to be repasting it using Noctua's NT-H1 thermal paste. You can use whatever brand you like. There are a lot of brands that are great out there. You know, Thermal Grizzly and Noctua and Arctic, Honeywell, and so many other ones. The important thing is you're using a good one and you're putting it on there so that it's going to be properly protected. Now, we don't need very much because these are very small. So we're just going to squeeze a little bit out, if I can get it. There we go. And it takes actually a fair amount of force to get that stuff to come out. Now, you're going to want to use something, again, clean. Don't forget to reseal your tube. And just carefully spread it out evenly so that the whole of it, if you slop some over the side, as long as you're not using a conductive paste, which is going to most likely have gallium in it, and gallium can damage certain other metals and actually make them very brittle, and then you've just destroyed anything nearby that gets touched by them. Unless you're using that, you don't need to worry about whether it's gotten onto the PCB like this is. That's fine. Maybe it looks sloppy to you, but honestly, it doesn't make any difference. However, if it bothers you, you could probably use like a Q-tip and very carefully clean it up. But really, unless you're using one of those liquid metal compounds, this is just fine. You just want to get it nice and spread out there so that the whole of that is covered. And then, of course, clean your tool. Don't leave all the excess on your tool, because how are you going to use your tool next time? Alright, and that's it. Then you just take this. You don't need to put paste on this. You're just going to reseat it and carefully place it on there to align the screw holes so you can put the screws on. That's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. Just be careful again not to short out your computer. Put it back together. Make sure that all of the screws have been put back in. You don't want to forget screws. Make sure you push it down firmly. Everything should click into place, although sometimes there are parts that you have to get the right spot for it to click into place. And there we go. It's all done. I'm not going to bother wasting your time showing you me screwing it back together again. That should be it. Now you may have the question of, how often should I repaste my laptop? And the truth of the matter is you can repaste your laptop as often as you like. However, most pastes will last at least a couple of years, depending on certain factors like the quality of the paste and the temperatures that your CPU reaches and GPU and all that. But if you replace it about every 2 years or so, you should be good. However, if you notice sooner than that it's getting a lot hotter than it was initially, you may have to replace again. If you see within a few days or even a few months that it's starting to get really hot, then either you're using the wrong thermal paste, or you've got not enough thermal paste, or maybe too much thermal paste, or maybe you took a thermal pad off and put paste on instead. If it's a pad that you started with, it's a pad you should replace it with. So if you see something where it's like abnormally hot in a short amount of time, and when I say short, I mean less than a year, then that's something that you need to investigate carefully to try and figure out what is the problem. Every once in a while, you may end up getting thermal paste that has expired, and thermal paste that has expired is definitely not going to be stable for as long as fresh paste. Now, I'm not saying that thermal paste is going to have to be thrown away within the first 5 minutes or something like that. You can hold on to it for years, but eventually it's probably going to go bad, at which point you'll realize it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section and I'll try to help you out. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, share this video to anybody you think will need help with doing this on a laptop. Now keep in mind, every laptop is a little bit different. Some of them are significantly different. Some of them may have a graphics processor built into it, which means there may be more to do than what I had to do on my laptop. Thanks again, and hope you have a great day.